Everybody's always looking for the shortcuts that will tell them that a relationship is safe to pursue. What are the green flags? What are the red flags? But I'm here to theorize that it is that compulsive need to circumvent the process of having to go through getting to know someone that is leading you to the most danger. I think about this all the time because I spend way too much time on the internet, and it's a popular topic. But I recently came across the question, what is the pettiest reason you've stopped talking to someone in the talking phase? And it was someone's reply to my answer of that really brought this back into focus for me. My answer was that some guy said, I made a boo-boo in an attempt to convey that he packed the wrong shirt on a work trip. And someone replied, I know we're all different because that would be so cute, especially if he has his life together in other areas. And also depends on how well I know someone too. Fine, sure, whatever. My immediate response to that was like, yes, we are all very different because childlike behaviors in adults is an instant turnoff. My brain just can't sexualize a human that uses baby talk in conversation. And then this person goes on to say, well, I guess for me, that makes me feel a bit safer with someone if they don't take themselves so seriously. Now, they could still be very dangerous, but my brain goes, oh, this is a safe person because I've been abused. And so certain strong masculine attributes give me anxiety and of course turn me off. And I found this very interesting. I think that concept is something that a lot of women resonate with. This idea of extremely masculine displays are scary because they associate masculinity or an extreme show of it with violence. But her thought process brought up some very interesting things, and I really want to talk about that today.
I used to wear Stockholm, now I prefer alone. I'd rather do this on my own than be disrespected and feel so neglected. I'm ready to go and right this wrong, 'cause I love myself more than I love your attention. That I love myself more than I love.
If you're new here, and everybody is, because if this is released in accordance to when I plan to do so, this will either be the very first episode of this that you ever hear, the preview or something. It's early, so you are probably very new here. This is Difficult Conversations with Katie Rocks, and what is a difficult conversation? All these things that we call taboo, all these things that we would like to be black and white that we don't want to have nuance on. We want to say it's all this and all that, but it's not. Life is nuance. And I'm here to have those difficult conversations with you. Today's show is brought to you by Katie's Will to Live. Do you struggle to find meaning and purpose in life outside of paying bills and going to work? Does life simply not have the magic that it once had when you were younger? Are you aging with no sign of things changing and this certain sense of melancholy that just sits in your stomach and this feeling that nobody in this world understands you? Well, boy, do I have the product for you. It is this podcast, a podcast that dives into the tough but necessary conversations around autonomy, personal reinvention, and life transitions, providing relatable insights and strategies for those rebuilding their lives from the ground up. As a premium member of the Difficult Conversations podcast, you will get access to various life strategies, relationship management tools, and new perspectives that you can apply to create magic in your everyday life. And you will also have access to one-on-one questions with the host if you would like a little mentorship, little guidance. The Difficult Conversations podcast with Katie Rocks on Patreon. Check us out and join today. Now, let's talk about the well-meaning, but definitely so problematic idea that childlike behavior is the opposite of masculine attributes, aka childlike behavior in an adult means that a person is safe. Yes, the original commenter said, they could still be dangerous, but my brain will go, this is safe. We're just talking about this ideal of perceiving a person as safe because they're childlike. And so my first thought is childlike behavior isn't the opposite of having masculine attributes, at least not inherently. In fact, when we consider popular manipulation tropes like weaponized incompetence, which is the act of not doing something or not doing it well and not taking accountability for things under the guise of, I don't understand how to do this. This is outside of my skill set, instead of actively taking responsibility for learning how to complete a task or take accountability for something. That's a form of childlikeness, right? That's a form of being childish. Oh, I'm too immature, or I'm unskilled, or I just don't know how, so you should take over it. That is manipulative. And so the first thing I think when somebody is readily presenting childlike behavior to another adult And especially keep this in mind, the context, an adult that he hoped to one day see naked, an adult that he wanted to be his romantic partner. And this is language he is choosing in front of me. Like, I know we like to believe that our brain just says stuff, but no, we actively choose and curate what to say in front of a person based on what we want them to think of us, how we want to be perceived. And it's easy to go, how do you know? How do you know? Well, one, first and foremost, I'm an African-American person, a Black person. And one thing that every Black American will tell you is that the first thing we learn to do in society is code switch. Code switching is this ideal of behaving and speaking a certain way in front of certain people and behaving and speaking another way in front of another set. And he's also he is still Black. We're not still talking. He was also a Black American. So that is just a part of the culture of who we are. Anybody who has ever been seen as an other in society, whether you're differently able, neurodiverse, you belong to a marginalized racial group, gender group, I think we all know what that feels like, and especially as women. There's certain things that we do in front of our girlfriends that we don't do in front of strange men. And I did not just say that we should have to behave differently to be safe. So back that up, delete that paragraph. I said what we do. This is what we do because this is what we've been socialized to believe is safe, is behaving one way in front of our friends or people we trust and another way in front of strangers who we feel have the potential to be aggressors. All of that to say that every single person on this earth understands the ideal that behavior is specifically chosen. Language and communication of language is a form of behavior. And so we specifically choose these things based on how we would like to be perceived, especially in scenarios where we are dating, getting to know someone, and trying to get chosen by a partner, okay? We ideally put our best foot forward. I said something very similar to this in a live stream a few months ago when I was discussing, in fact, I think this was the same guy. Oh my God. When I was discussing somebody I was getting to know and how he said something, it wasn't this, it was something else that was so offensive. And I was like, that's so ridiculous that he would choose to say that in front of me. And someone was like, no, you want to see somebody's worst attributes as soon as possible. And I was like, yes, but it's crazy to want somebody to purposely put bad attributes in front of you. And the plot got so lost. It's like, because like somebody who respects you wants you to think positively about them. And so if somebody is purposely, intentionally showing you bad behavior, it's a sign that they don't respect you. When we talk about wanting to see somebody's bad traits as soon as we can, we mean like the natural reveal of them, like by spending time with them, which also kind of ties into what we're talking about today. Like everyone wants a life hack, whether somebody is safe or not, if somebody's a life partner, but it's like you can only really get that information through experiencing it within context and over time. When we talk about wanting to see who someone is as soon as possible, that's why it's important to schedule dates as frequently as you can while maintaining autonomy, because I'm also very anti speed running getting to know someone, because all of a sudden once you realize who they are not a person you are aligned with, because maybe they're toxic, or maybe they don't want the same things as you. You are so consumed by them. You're so used to them being a part of your daily life. It's harder for you to walk away from it when this whole process that you were going through was simply the process of getting to know whether they make sense as a life partner. Now that you know they don't, but you're so used to them because like you have squeezed them into every moment of every day that you have available that you cannot see your life without them anymore. And it was never meant to be that. I hate when girlies reduce the whole take your time getting to know people as like you're trying to be mysterious, you're trying to play games. No, MFer. I'm trying to retain my sense of self. Like, for example, we'll say every night at 7 p.m., I do nothing. I drift off into space. I scroll the internet and it's just me time. And then I start dating someone. I might be tempted to drop them into that 7 p.m. slot because quotation marks, I'm not doing anything, but it doesn't make sense because that space always existed for me to like be a blob, to be a person. It's field. And then other days of the week, maybe I'm gardening or I'm out with my friends. You had a whole life before this person. Dating someone means creating space in your life. It does not mean making them the center of everything all of a sudden. Don't speed run people. That was another issue that I had with this guy because he wanted to talk every night. And I'm like, no, we don't have things to talk about every single day because I just met you a month ago. In that scenario that I was referencing about not putting your best foot forward, the thing he said said was something that was universally offensive. It wasn't towards me, but it was offensive. It was harmful. And the comparison I made, it's like if you wouldn't say it in a job interview, regardless of how true and how authentic it is, because you know it could play wrong, you shouldn't say it while dating, at least not like when you're getting to know someone, when you know you are actually being judged. And so what I said was, to me, that indicated that he didn't feel like I was assessing him or that I had the right to assess him. It was like in his head, I was already locked in because we had confirmed that we wanted the same things in life. And because that was checked off, it's like he no longer felt the need to impress me or show up as somebody that people would want, if that makes sense, because it was just like, it was offensive. And then in this moment, circling back, for him to say that I made a boo-boo, like anybody would think, and granted, everyone's different, and maybe I am generalizing too much, but anybody would look at that like, that's kind of like, ew, that's kind of childish, that's kind of weird. And then someone was like, well, did he have children? I was like, no, but even if he did, no children were present. He was on a work trip. He would have been away from them for some days. And let's be for real, like most men don't have full custody of their children. And so like also as a dog owner who says the word potty 2, 3, 4 times a day, it never slips out into my conversation with adult people. And in general, any sense of potty humor, whether it's the word potty, boo-boo, or anything, there's a general consensus that that's gross and we don't discuss those things in front of people. You know what I mean? And so that was just a weird choice for him to intentionally choose in front of me. That's the first place my head goes on this. But then to context that as like, oh, that just means like he doesn't take himself too seriously and he's childish, so he's probably safe. No, because a lot of adults that choose to be childish in front of you on purpose, intentionally, they either one, do it compulsively, like they can't help it, which is maybe a sign of some other things that might be valid and they need assistance with, or might be harmful, or they're doing it on purpose because they're trying to create a childish persona, right? And then we have to actively think about why somebody would want to be perceived as childish to a romantic partner. And no doubt people who just like to argue was like, well, women will do it so they can what? Be taken care of. You see how there's an objective on the other side of it? They'll play into the trope that women are dumb or needy or childlike. Why? Because they are actively participating in hypergamy. Then people will like, who says it's right? Nobody said it was right or wrong. The whole point was that the behavior, childish behavior put forth by an adult to an adult that they're pursuing a romantic relationship with is done purposely for an outcome, for a cause. It's not because they're just so safe and friendly and good and all those things. Like a person who is manipulative is not necessarily a safe person, at least not for you. And I say that with caution because I've also had like little debates about how manipulation doesn't necessarily have to have a negative connotation, but it's just developed that way. Because when we think about just language as just language, like when I straighten my hair, I am manipulating my hair. I'm just changing it, right? Because I have naturally curly hair. So manipulation actually has a lot of use outside of how everyday people typically use it. Manipulation of chemicals. Like I'm not making it up. I'm not creating false context. And I don't say this to feel superior, but like if you read more types of books, you will see that the word manipulation does not inherently mean something bad. But in this instance, we are using it to discuss behavior that is put forth to deceive and get an outcome without being honest, right? So that's the definition we're working with. That's, silly. And then I go on to kind of talk about how like it also plays into the general sentiment that men should be coddled. Because even if we use the example of women who want to be taken care of so they act childish, yes, you see how it's actively used as a tool to look for a caretaker. And it's like, why? I mean, I guess I can't fault you if it was your life dream to take care of a man. I don't know, like it's not relatable for me. I wouldn't recommend it, but I guess do your thing. But most women are not looking for that. They're not looking for somebody, they're not looking for an adult child. They're not looking for an adult child that will still use their body as a sex toy. That's not the typical vibe, need, desire of most women. And if you're into that, I'm not a psychologist, and so I'm not going to make an assessment on it, but I do have some gut feelings. Do you? We don't have to agree. I don't pay your bills. I don't do anything about you for you. So we don't have to align, right? We don't have to align. People get so upset when people don't align. It's okay. It's all right. That's completely fine. But that is, typically what that behavior can lend towards. It's like somebody who wants to be coddled, somebody who is grooming you per se about being coddled. And to take that point a little further, it's also very dangerous to assume that a person who needs to be coddled and a person who is childlike, who uses weaponized incompetence is safe. Because what I said was the TV sitcom Husband has taught us that the man-child is often the most dangerous, the most emotionally unstable, and most unpredictable type of man that exists, at least with a hyper-masculine man. If for some reason that hyper-masculinity is perceived or becomes violent, I said perceived because I was thinking to perceive hyper-masculinity as inherently violent. I know what they're trying to say. I know so bad what they're trying to say, but I think, again, as an African-American woman, that is a little problematic to me because part of the issues, there's many issues with colorism, but part of the issue with colorism is this idea that the darker someone's skin is, the more violent they are because it's seen as masculine. Dark skin is seen as very masculine. And if you're very masculine, you're dangerous. And this is men or women. So like the darker a woman is, the more likely we are to perceive her behavior as aggressive or violent. Look at how people treat or speak about Serena Williams when she's not ecstatic or she's just responding in kind to a situation that is difficult or unfair. They paint her as unsportsmanlike or harmful or aggressive because she has dark skin. I want to say again, I don't think this person was being racist by saying that masculinity, the more masculine something or somebody appears, the more dangerous they are. I know what they mean. I know what they meant. But again, as a Black person, that is something that I see every day. Those are conversations in my community. Those are things that impact my community. And so it's like, I can't 100% get on board with the broad version of that statement because it's harmful. And I mean, even if we look at the situation with J.K. Rowling calling out the Olympic boxer, calling her a trans woman, calling her a trans person, why? Because she had masculine features. Where did that start? Because she won her round. This idea that masculinity and violence are tied together. And so it's like, oh, she hurt me and not just beat me in this round of this Olympic sport that I maybe have been playing all my life, but because she beat me and it hurt and she's masculine, it was an attempt at violence purposely. There's so many issues with that. And so even in an event where hypermasculinity is the cause of violence or the precursor to violence, it's a different kind. It's the kind that usually you can see coming because it's visual aggression. Like this is a person who might flare up their nostrils or punch something or something you can see. It's not okay. I'm not saying it's all right, but it's like, it's predictable. It makes sense when you put it together. Oh, of course he's violent because he was throwing bricks outside for fun and getting pumped up and he's huge. He has all these muscles, but it leaves open this window for men who are not hyper masculine, but are extremely dangerous because they're manipulative and they play psychological games and they get to create harm by making themselves look smaller. Wolves in sheep's clothing. And, so this Trojan horse type of style of attack, this person who gets your trust up front, who has this poker face, I'm so harmless. Like that is, to me personally, the scariest thing out there. I know to look out for the other type of violence. I know what to pin down, but the other kind, it's lingering everywhere. There's no way to see it. And so I think to allow yourself to internalize that you will be safer with someone for whatever small reasons, but especially someone who is trying to be perceived as childlike, I think that's incredibly dangerous because again, why are they trying to paint a picture of themselves as childish? Like what's on the other side of that?
Thanks so much for listening. Keep in mind that this was just a snippet. If you want to stream the entire episode, be sure to join us on the Difficult Conversations Patreon. Otherwise, we'll see you in the YouTube comments and chat with you on the next one.